Episode 2 is essentially about the fallout from Blood and Cheese. Mostly for the Greens, but definitely also for the Blacks. There's a great opening shot, woozy, unfocused, disorienting, and with muffled sound that captures something of the emotional shock of losing someone or also being punched in the face. Then we cut to people in their bedclothes being herded around the Red Keep by soldiers, like they were after Viserys' death. So House of the Dragon is about politics, but it's also just about a family, and this family is basically falling apart and largely refusing each other any emotional support. At the centre is the king, Aegon, smashing his father's model of Valyria. "I am the king," he shouts, reminiscent of Joffrey Baratheon and Tywin's comments about people who have to say that, screaming at his small council, asking Criston Cole where he was when his son died, proving that even an overly emotional idiot can be correct once in a while. He thinks Rhaenyra is laughing at him when we see later that's the opposite of the truth. Aegon kills Blood before finding out which rat catcher helped him, and then decides, hey, well, I'll just kill all the rat catchers instead. The redemption arc that he looked like he was going on in the last episode is very much gone. The younger generation, Aegon, Criston Cole, they're living in their emotions. We have the older generation, Otto and Alicent, who they have to sit back and try to manage Aegon. They simultaneously realise that the culmination of Otto's decades of work is Aegon II, an angry idiot. One of the strengths of this franchise at its best is the dialogue, and I think it's particularly good in this episode. On the one hand, we have characters like Otto and Alicent. The gates have been shut. The search progresses. The child is dead. His pain is ended. This very restrained, stoic persona that they try to maintain, versus Aegon's and Helena's much simpler, more direct statements. "She's laughing at me. I don't want them closer. I don't know them." Before they meet in the small council, Otto and Alicent chat. Alicent's not totally in control of herself. She's hyperventilating. Otto decides to reach out to her, but she rejects him. And this rejection of one family member to another is something that's repeated over and over throughout the episode. While Aegon makes the choice to live completely in his feelings and Alicent struggles to deal with hers, Otto sees the political opportunity in the death. Tell the realm that Rhaenyra did it. Let them see the child. Aegon points out that people will think he's weak, but Otto says they already think he's weak. A swift coronation where a dragon escapes the pit. It ends up with a funeral procession from the Red Keep to the Dragon Pit. The dead prince on a bed of flowers, Alicent and Helena riding behind them. It's a great piece of political theatre. Behold the works of Rhaenyra Targaryen, pretender to the throne, kinslayer, defiler of the innocent, gets repeated over and over on the procession. The small folk throw flowers at them as the carriage moves through King's Landing. Helena gets disturbed by this. We see Alicent's hand on her knees as the procession moves forward. When the carriage gets stuck, Helena starts squirming. I think there's two things going on here. Firstly, Helena. Secondly, the small folk. I'll come to the small folk afterwards, but Helena first. Think about the incidents we've seen with Helena recently. There's Blood and Cheese. She's scared, but she's holding it together. She has the presence of mind to pick up her other child and go and find safety. Then we see her at the funeral here. She's starting to lose control of herself when the carriage gets stuck. She needs Alicent to talk her down, which we don't fully see, but presumably it works. After the funeral, we see her on the stairs in the Red Keep. She passes her husband, the king, as she's going up and he's going down the stairs. They stop, look at each other. Aegon decides not to speak to her and carries on walking down the stairs. Helena just stands there, nods to herself, and looks, under those particular circumstances, to have a very strong emotional control of herself. Why does she have this control on the stairs, where her husband is rejecting her, but out in King's Landing, where she's with her mother, she's surrounded by soldiers, she's kind of losing it? Well, it does seem like Helena is a Targaryen dreamer. She's talked about how she's been worried about the rats, and that has come true. Presumably, she's also seen her estrangement from Aegon as well, and she accepts that very stoically. So why is she so scared of the small folk during the procession? Firstly, she's a queen, and before that, she was a princess. She probably doesn't leave the castle very much. Essentially, she's a prisoner of the Red Keep in many ways. We've also seen with Aegon that Otto and Alicent haven't been very good at training their children to be members of the royal family. So that's kind of the more practical reason. But then on the other hand, she's a dreamer. She's concerned about the small folk, what they're going to do in the future, and the small folk are definitely a thread in this episode. We see it with Prince Aemond, who's only in a couple of scenes, and only speaks in this one scene here in a brothel, where he's naked, in the fetal position, and being held by a woman who looks older than his mother. I'm not judging here, the MILFs can be a lot of fun. He's talking about Daemon. He has an interesting interpretation of the attack. He sees it as personal, not that he's Alicent's child. The woman reminds him, when princes lose their temper, it is often others who suffer. We also see Hugh, who spoke to Aegon in the throne room in the previous episode. Hugh's wife says that food is expensive, their child is sick. Hugh reminds her that Aegon has promised some relief, but the wife asks when. I imagine a lot of people are probably asking when. Back at the Red Keep, we see Criston Cole. He's standing outside Jaehaerys' bedroom, watching the furniture be disassembled. There's a look on his face. Is he feeling guilty? Is he feeling lost? Is he feeling trapped? One of the servants addresses him as Lord, which is ironic because we know that his social standing is actually very low, but he's ended up here in the Red Keep, in the Game of Thrones, and what's his next move? Later on, Alicent asks him if he's told anyone about them, if he's asked for absolution. Criston replies, "There's none for what I've done." I'd argue that this is a guy who's kind of trapped. He realises he's not really up to playing the game, but he's got to do something. So he goes and sees Sir Aric, and tells him to go to Dragonstone, pretend to be his twin, and kill Rhaenyra. So we've got two stupid ideas here. We've got Aegon's stupid idea of killing all the rat catchers, literally all of them, rather than finding out which particular one actually killed his son. And we've got Criston Cole's stupid idea of assassinating Rhaenyra. This leads into one of the two set-piece scenes for this episode. There's one big scene for the Greens, one big one for the Blacks, which we'll come to later. For the Greens, Otto walks into the room to talk to Aegon, and Criston Cole is there as well. Otto is furious. His serious, pious persona finally cracks in this scene, and it's a wonderful performance from Rhys Ifans. Otto starts talking about how stupid it is to kill all the rat catchers, because the rat catchers have families, they have parents, they have wives, they have children and siblings as well, and Aegon doesn't really care. If he's killed 100 people and just one of them is guilty, that's absolutely no problem as far as he seems to be concerned. After they discuss that, Aegon says that he's bored of playing Otto's diplomatic game. He likes Criston Cole. Criston Cole is a man of action and he's done something. Otto looks horrified before he even knows what it is. His face is absolutely hilarious. All three of the actors in this scene are really good, but for me, Rhys Ifans as Otto really just takes the biscuit here. He's really perfect. Otto talks about his memory of Viserys, how careful he was, how dignified. Aegon replies he doesn't really care about dignity. Otto stoops low to some personal attacks, saying that Viserys was right about Aegon, about his unsuitability to be king. Aegon strips Otto of the title of Hand, tells him to give the pin to Criston Cole. Cole gets this "oh no" look on his face. I've kind of met Criston Cole. I think everybody's met Criston Cole at work. He's the kind of guy who interviews well. He can socialise with the upper management. He has zero self-awareness of his own shortcomings until something absolutely awful happens. I also loved the last moment where Otto walks out of the room, and after he starts walking, Aegon says, "You're dismissed." This is another broken relationship. After Aegon's choice words of Anglo-Saxon, Alicent and Otto talk. He's not temperate. He's still manageable. Again, great dialogue that shows the difference between the faction who believes in diplomacy and the faction who believes in war. The older faction and the younger faction. We find out that Alicent has a third son, Daeron, who's living with his Hightower relatives. Next, there's a scene where Alicent walks in on Aegon, and Aegon has broken down crying. Alicent looks at him but decides to walk away. Surely this is a golden opportunity to manage him. Well, we can see that Alicent's got other priorities in mind, as by the end of the episode she's very much back riding the Criston Cole train. I think these two probably even don't like each other, but they're so much prisoners of their past decisions that I guess why not take a little bit of comfort in each other? I don't know, it's difficult to know what you would actually do if you were in this position, I guess. That's the Greens. The first time we see the Blacks, they're discussing the political fallout of Jaehaerys' death. Otto's messages to the Great Houses have already gone out across Westeros. Rhaenyra is totally shocked. She denies that she did it. She especially denies it because it happened to Helaena, and she's angry when other council members imply that she might have done it in a moment of madness. She looks at Daemon and suggests that he might know what's going on. And this is our second big set-piece scene. Daemon's anger is barely under control here. He won't reveal the instructions that he gave to Blood and Cheese. He's restraining himself from attacking Rhaenyra, but barely. He throws a cup across the room, like Aegon II did earlier in the episode. He reaches for Rhaenyra's throat to choke her, but restrains himself twice and cups her face with his other hand. Rhaenyra's having a big picture chat with Daemon. She can't trust him. He's worried about his stolen inheritance. He has a darkness within him. He won't submit to her as his queen. The topic that makes him most angry is Viserys and how Viserys didn't really trust him at all. Like the scene with Otto and Aegon, the blocking here, the movement of the actors is really well done. The direction makes these scenes come to life very much. It's the Game of Thrones franchise at its best, I think. As Daemon leaves, he walks past his daughter Baela and ignores her. And then we see Baela and Jace somewhere on the island of Dragonstone talking about their fathers. Jace talks about Laenor, and then Baela mentions Harwin Strong. This is something I don't get about the Blacks. Why are they maintaining the fiction that Jace and his brothers are Velaryons? Why not just be like, hey, I like screwing around with this guy who's in the gold cloaks, and I'm the heir to the throne, so what are you gonna do? I don't know, it's kind of a bit of a weakness in their position, I think. Why lie about it? Why can't Rhaenyra just be upfront about what she did? Rhaenyra has a chat to Mysaria. Mysaria, she's a little bit too blunt for me. She's a little bit too disrespectful. She's a little bit, I don't know, could she really get away with the way that she talks to Daemon, with the way that she talked to Otto Hightower, with the way that she talked to Rhaenyra here? I'm not sure. Rhaenyra, to her shame, has actually forgotten who Mysaria is. Once they have a chat about the challenges in her life, which I'm not sure Rhaenyra would care about, but definitely after they have a chat about Daemon, which Rhaenyra obviously cares about a lot more, she decides to let Mysaria go, which is good because Mysaria is the one who identifies Arik as arriving on the island. I quite enjoyed the fight scene between Eric and Arik. So even though they're twins and they love each other, they decide to kill each other because of their divided loyalties. I guess in some ways they're also victims of the ambitions of Rhaenyra and of the Hightowers. I watched the final fight between them a few times. I think for most of it you can tell which one is which, but I think there's a couple of shots where the camera goes directly on their faces, which kind of obfuscates who is who. Towards the end of the fight, one of them says, "You parted us." So he's leaning over the other twin. Is that Arik? Because Eric is the one who left, so Eric is the one who's on the floor underneath, who then grabs his brother's wrist and puts his finger into the wound. I'm not sure. I guess you could construct a theory at the end of which one is which, but ultimately it doesn't matter. I think they're both just victims of the game that other people are playing. So that was episode 2. Okay, so other things to talk about. There's a really nice scene between Corlys and Rhaenys, who seem to have the only functional relationship in the show. Rhaenys knows that Daemon wishes to be his own master, and she also knows that Corlys likes being told what to do. Maybe not in real life, but in their private chambers, if you see what I'm saying. We also get to meet Adam of Hull. We met Alan last time. This is his brother Adam, who sees war as an opportunity, who sees Corlys's favour towards Alan as something that they could exploit, that they could use to be social climbers. We also see Adam looking for some cockles down on the beach when a dragon flies past him. So, spoilers if you don't want to know, the dragon looks like it has grey wings with white tips on, which suggests it's Sea Smoke, which is Rhaenyra Velaryon, i.e. Rhaenyra's husband, who she absolutely definitely had 3 children with, right? Is Rhaenyra Velaryon on this dragon, or is something else going on here? We'll see. Yeah, this was a bit of a downer of an episode, but I enjoyed it more on the rewatch, to be honest. Thanks for watching.